92 FM. Game On's Fantasy Football.
And you're very welcome along to the Game On Fantasy Football podcast. It is Game Week 13. I'm looking for some, but not for anyone who listens to this podcast. I am very glad to say I am joined by the brain trust that is the Fantasy Premier League Transfers.com, Phil McGrath and Paul Caffrey. Hello, Paul. Hello, Phil.
Hello, how's it going?
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you. Let's have a very quick look back at Game Week 12, lads. Game of the season, possibly so far. Goodison Park last week, Everton 3, Liverpool 3. Lukaku on with 2. And Morales, a man that Phil's been tipping for the last few weeks. He was on the score sheet as well. Should have been on the field. That's another question. And Coutinho, Sturridge, Suarez on the score sheet for Liverpool. Arsenal 2-0 up on Southampton. It finished at the Emirates. Giroud with 2 there, and Mertesacker, who's got an assist as well. Fulham 1, Swansea 2, and Hull City beaten at home by Crystal Palace. We didn't think that had happened, but it did.
Certainly not one we saw coming.
Newcastle 2-1 up on Norwich. Gouffran and Remy again going strong there. Stoke City 2, Sunderland 0. The magic of Sunderland has been stopped. And it was a great week for Nzonzi. Not only did he score, he also got an assist. Crouch with the other assist, and Adam with the other goal for Stoke. West Ham beaten 3-0 at home by Chelsea. Lampard with 2, Oscar with 1, and Oscar with an assist. Hazard with the other 2 assists. So good week if you had either of the 3 of those. Man City 6, Spurs 0. 2 goals for Naves, Aguero, 1 for Agredo, and of course an own goal from Sandro. Poor old Spurs.
Yeah,
poor old ABB.
I didn't see that coming. I kind of said last week I thought that one game would have been tighter, considering that Spurs had only conceded 1 goal away from home going into that game. But
Speaking of tight, Cardiff City 2, Manchester United 2.
If only it was City. Listen, it is what it is. They should have won it in the end. I don't know what Rooney was doing squaring the ball, but anyway.
And Fraser Campbell, good day for him, scoring against his old club.
He likes scoring against Manchester clubs.
He does. Shane Long, 2 great goals for West Brom. He looks in fine fettle. And of course Aston Villa earned a draw through Almaty and Westwood.
And if you believe Twitter, Shane Long should be in line for an Ealing call up now.
Yes.
Did you see that? No. There was a lot of people.
Phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people on Twitter going, "Oh my God, why hasn't Roy Hodgson called him up? He's great. Get him in."
Hello.
There was a Facebook campaign very similar as well.
Okay. My God, good to see so many people with their finger on the pulse.
And they remember the fact that Long actually scored against England for Ireland a year ago.
Well, that was Game Week 12. How did you do?
Let me see. I had... Hang on. Where's my points?
Paul, how did you do while we're waiting for...
84 points.
What?
So it was
That's a tremendous amount.
76.
Yeah.
77, yeah. I sort of messed up at the back, but did well up front. Messed up the captain, messed up at the back. Well done, Paul. Good game week. We're very happy here in the studio for you.
That's great.
Time for Game Week 13. Right, Game Week 13. I know you guys are going to take me on a whistle-stop tour around English Premier League grounds, but where would you like to start? Phil?
I think the first place we'll start is up north, St James's Park, Newcastle, West Brom. Newcastle were on a good run of form. West Brom have also started to turn a corner, I suppose. Kind of draw specialists really over the last couple of weeks. I mean, looking at it, Newcastle have lost 1 of the last 6 with the last 3 wins in a row, whereas the Baggies have only won 1 of the last 6, but they've had 4 draws. So, there certainly seems to be both teams are scoring, both teams are starting to play a bit better. Newcastle, 9 goals in 6 home games compared to 6 goals in 6 away games for the Baggies. And the Magpies, I was going to call them the Black Cats, I'd be shot.
Oh, you get in trouble for that.
They wouldn't like that.
Be shot.
They wouldn't like that.
Newcastle have 3 clean sheets at home this season, and the Baggies have 2 away. So it's reasonably even, I suppose, over the last couple of weeks. Standout performers for me in this one, like Remy, is the one again, I mentioned him last week and again this week. 8 goals now in 8 games. He's hard to ignore. And Johan Kabay, he has a goal and 2 assists in his last 5. And interestingly enough, all of those have come at St James's Park. For me, with West Brom, Shane Long looks like he's going to have to start after his brace on Monday night, and that makes it 3 goals in 2 games for him. So
contract negotiations have been promised now because his contract runs out at the end of this season.
Yeah, well, you see, I heard the interview with Steve Clark afterwards, and Steve Clark kind of said, we always said he was going to be a big part of our season. He's proven that now, but that's out of my hands. I don't deal with that, so it's down to the club, not necessarily him.
All right.
The other person for me in this game then is Sessegnon. He did miss a sitter on Monday night, but he is showing signs of improvement with a goal and assist.
At 6.6, he's pretty good value.
Yeah, if he can start converting those chances, I think he's certainly one to look at.
All right, Paul.
He's been trying to convert those chances for years now, though, Phil. I think we have to just forget about Sessegnon at some point. Just write him off. He's never going to do it and to be in your fantasy team. I'd say you covered it off fairly well. You picked out all the main players. I brought in Remy last week. Was happy he actually got the points. I was actually you ever have one of those weeks where you want to make a transfer. You know you probably shouldn't, but you have free transfers there. So it was the reason for bringing him in. In fairness, he delivered, and with the fixtures coming up, I'd expect him to score again.
Those transfers are optional, Paul.
Yeah, I know. See, what I've done is I didn't make transfers for a week, so I ended up with 2 free. So I only used one of them last week, so I've got another 2 again this week. If I opt to use the 2, I can still carry one over.
I had 2 free transfers this week as well, and I've actually already made my transfers, but I'm not telling you.
Already made your transfers?
Yeah, but I'm not telling you who.
Mm-hmm. And there you go. You see, you're getting nervous now. You've never finished ahead of me, and you're about 50 or 20 points ahead of me at the minute.
Pressure's on.
There you go.
Any more at this game, Paul, or will we move on to the second featured game?
No, I think you guys covered the players there. Excellent. So, yeah, let's move on.
All right. And where to next?
We got to North London.
All right.
Tottenham and United.
Paul, you take us through this one, starting, I suppose, with the home team Spurs. I mean, after a 6-0 defeat at the Etihad, they'll be really looking for a reaction. And like we're talking about the sort of Irish against New Zealand sort of reaction.
Well, yeah, there you go. What a game.
Possibly with a win at the end.
Yes, yeah. Depending on refereeing decisions again, we won't get into that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you're going to have to see a reaction out of Tottenham. However, that reaction is going to more likely be them being a little bit more defensive. AVB has said that he's going to go 4-4-2, but he's not going to do it for this fixture or their next game against City coming up. If I had a Tottenham defender, I would throw him in, but they're not getting the ball forward quick enough. They don't really have a second striker in there. So for me, the attacking options, I wouldn't exactly be bringing in Soldado. He gets his goals in the box like most good strikers, but Spurs just can't get the ball into the box quicker. Their wingers don't cross the ball. I think he's going to start playing Dembele a bit more as well. So for me, Tottenham side of things, I wouldn't be too enthused. However, on the United front, obviously it's going to be depending on the game against Bayern Leverkusen, which they have this week. That could take a lot out of them, depending on how that match is played. They're away in Germany, needing to win to get through the Champions League group. I would find it very, very hard to ignore Rooney. Now, I have him in the team. Obviously, he's playing great football. Some would say he should have been sent off last week, but he wasn't. He's going to be there. He's going to be in amongst it. And then the other side of things, I would probably go for a United defender because I don't fancy Tottenham to score. So really, I'd be thinking that United will go there, maybe get a goal or two and get the win. They typically get the right results at White Hart Lane. But then if I did have a Spurs defender, I might chance throwing them in on the off chance that they should up shop. Any players for yourself jumping out there, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, it's an intriguing game, and that's kind of why I thought it needed to be covered. Look, it's really it's going to be quite difficult to see what way both sides are going to line out. I think we're going to see different sides to what we saw last weekend. I mean, looking at the lineups from last weekend based on the game week 11 teams, I mean, Spurs made 5 changes with Kabul coming in for Kirikesh, Sandro coming in for Dembele, and then Lamela, Holtby and Lennon came in for Townsend, Eriksson and Sigurdsson. And then you look at United, and they also made similar amount of changes. You know, Ferdinand came in for Vidic, Jones, Carrick and Kagawa were dropped with Januzaj, Fellaini and Cleverly coming in, and then obviously Hernandez came in for the injured RVP, who hasn't travelled to Germany this week, so we'll be hoping he'll be back and be fit for the weekend.
He's more than likely to be fit. I think the difference is United's changes were enforced, and Tottenham's changes were really down to the fact that they don't know what their best team is. With Tottenham, you know they're going to play Lloris, even despite the, I suppose, questionable clearance he made. They're going to play their defenders. All the other players apart from that you're unsure about, and then obviously they will play Soldado, but you're not getting goals. You don't want him.
No, well, I'd fancy Spurs for a goal this week, and simply because United have yet to keep a clean sheet in the road. And Townsend for me is one that could cause trouble with his pace. Evra hasn't quite got it the way he used to. I think we could see him being skinned once or twice. But again, you're right, it's questionable whether the final ball is there. But for me, and he'd be one to have a look at. I think if Van Persie is fit, he scored in the corresponding fixture last year, I'd be looking at him. But it'll also be interesting to see what way United line up. I mean, against Arsenal they played 4-2-3-1. Against Cardiff they played a flat 4-4-2. That didn't work out for them. They're going to switch back. I think they're better suited to the formation they played against the Gunners. But it'll be interesting to see whether they will do that.
That is pretty much the second of the feature games. It's nice and quick today. Let's keep going while we're on a roll. Third featured game is
Chelsea Southampton. Only because I wanted to talk about Jose's new haircut.
It's pretty sharp.
So was the razor that did it?
Apparently,
which he did with the machine. I subsequently found out that that's what Portuguese people call razors, machines.
The machine.
Yeah.
Generic.
I got Fernando's machine.
Apparently it's I was listening to some psychologist speaking earlier today. Don't ask me why. And it's supposed to, shaving your head for no reason, especially of a man of his age, is supposed to signify that he's done something wrong and is trying to shed himself of that wrongdoing. But as to exactly what that is, we don't know.
Maybe would he not just be trying to again bolster Fernando's confidence to say, hey, if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for you?
I don't know, man, but it's cold. Why would you shave your head going into winter? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
A hat.
But I like that theory you have there, Andrew. It's kind of like, Fernando, you're great with hair. You lost it without the hair. I'll shave off my hair. I'll still be great. It's not down to your hair, Fernando. Come on.
Yeah.
It's an interesting theory.
Samson is wrong.
I suppose. But looking at this one, both of these sides have lost one of their last 6. Chelsea have 4 wins. Southampton have 3. And both teams aren't exactly free scoring home or away. I mean, Chelsea have only managed 7 goals in 6 home games, and Southampton have only managed 4 goals in 6 away games, and both have conceded 5. So both have 2 clean sheets. It's very, very similar. But there are there's a couple of players in this one for me worth looking at. I mean, obviously Oscar and Hazard are the 2 Chelsea mainstays at the moment. I have Oscar. Paul, do you have Hazard?
No, I've stayed away from Chelsea. I haven't really liked them this season. I found them a bit difficult to watch. But I mean, and Hazard is getting the points, and so is Oscar. Oscar's having a fantastic season.
Yeah, for me, though, those 2 will be worth a look. I'm not sure if I'd have much confidence in looking into the Chelsea front line. We know Torres is fit and he's going to be back, but I'm not sure whether for me he's going to be worth bringing in. But at the back, then you have to fancy that Chelsea could get a clean sheet. I mean, am I mad, Paul?
No, absolutely not. I mean, if you look at Southampton, they generally only kind of get a goal or 2. It's very, very seldom. They don't score that many. But they've only conceded, I think it's 7 all season, so you can see how they're getting those results. I suppose one thing for sure is Southampton, they've an absolutely spectacular shape to their team. They're really going to stretch Chelsea when they haven't got the ball, so they're going to find it hard to win it. So I wouldn't be surprised to even see Southampton maybe shade the possession stakes. And then it's going to be a case of looking at the likes of Lallana or looking at 1 or 2 other midfielders going in, Davis in particular, and actually making chances, and obviously Rodriguez as well. Chelsea should keep a clean sheet. They won't concede too many chances against Southampton, but they may concede a lot of possession. But the other side of it is it's going to be very interesting to see how disciplined Southampton are, and if they actually change their game to deal with Chelsea, because Chelsea will overload the midfield, they'll overload you in certain areas, and they'll make chances as a result of that. So it really is going to be a question of which team, which players are going to do the most work. So, for example, if the Chelsea team shows up to play Newcastle a few weeks ago, I'd see Southampton getting a result. However, if Mourinho picks it as the right personnel and the guys all do a shift, they should go and get the result. I have Lallana in my team. I will play him this week. I think Shaw, if he is going to be available, I'm going to play him as well.
Yeah, he's down at 75% there with a knock, and Lovren as well is down to illness, and he should be fit as well. So, I mean, there shouldn't be too much change at the back for the Saints.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, there won't be a captain from me coming from this fixture.
No, nor me.
All right, well, there were 3 featured games. I'm interested. One of the questions I have for my transfers this week is it related to that. Well, I'm looking to bring Oscar in, and obviously with a player of that price, I would have to get rid of Mehmet Ozil to bring in Oscar, and I'm seriously considering it. And maybe I'll put that to you now, guys. What do you think of that?
I would give it 2 weeks, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, Arsenal's fixtures are pretty good.
I know, I've got Cardiff this week. It's Hull then the week after. I suppose Everton, City, Chelsea. I mean, that's kind of a tough run up for Christmas.
Well, I mean, if you look at the other side, Southampton, Sunderland away, Stoke City away, Crystal Palace at home, Arsenal away, Swansea at home. I mean, that's bringing you up to Christmas.
I mean, and the other factor we have to also consider is the Champions League group that Arsenal are involved in. Obviously, it's coming to a close, and I think they're playing at the moment, but that's going to be incredibly close. That's going to go to the last.
Currently 1-0 up at half time, by the way, on Marseille. Wilshere with the goal after in the first minute.
Well, that's a great start. I'm very interested to see what Dortmund do in the other fixture.
Dortmund are 1-up on Napoli at half time. Reyes with a penalty after 10 minutes.
Okay, so if that was, I suppose, if those results were to play out, I think it would mean that Arsenal would still have to get a result in the last game. I suppose stand to be corrected.
Well, Arsenal have to get more points than Dortmund. So if both teams win, you're right, it goes down to the final day.
So on that side of things, then maybe getting Ozil out and having Oscar coming in might not be bad. It's something I'd hang on a week or two, but then again, we're probably at the point of having too many Arsenal players nearly. You have Ramsey in there.
I do, yeah. I have Ramsey. Ramsey. That's the only two. I've only 2 Arsenal players, and they're both in midfield. So I just need to spread some of that love and money around.
Yeah, I'm with Paul. I'd hold off for 2 weeks.
All right. Right. Well, thank you for that.
No problem.
Let us get on to best of the rest. Right. So where will we start, Phil?
I'm going to start at Upton Park.
Upton Park. West Ham and Fulham.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of goals in this one, but I think there's a clean sheet in it for the Hammers. Fulham have only managed 5 goals in the road this season, and West Ham have kept 4 clean sheets at home in their 6 home games. Simple as that. Jaskalainen for me, and whichever one of the West Ham defenders you have, I suppose. For me, probably Tompkins is worth a look at 4.7, but
Joey O'Brien 5.1. He's probably worth it as well. He gets up a good bit. Anyone in this fixture that you like to look of, Paul?
No, I'd agree with the clean sheet there. I think it's a good shout. I think any player against Fulham is a good move at the moment because they really are in free fall.
Ravel Morrison 4.9. Of all the cheap price midfielders, Phil, he is one of those who's consistently playing rather than Januzaj and Barkley. This is a guy who's, for the round about the same price, is on the field.
Yeah, he's doing well. I mean, Big Sam was kind of bigging him up a couple of weeks back, saying he has a chance to make the plane to Rio when he needs to put in the performances. Now, personally, I don't think he does, but I think that's Sam being cute and trying to get the best out of him for the rest of the season. But he's doing well. He's 3 goals and an assist so far this season, and with Andy Carroll still out and the West Ham struggling for goals, he's the one that's likely to provide that spark for them. So he's certainly worth a look, and he does also fall into that category of being a player that you can have on your bench that will certainly get you 90 minutes if nothing else.
Paul, anywhere for your best of the rest? Well, I mean it's probably a slightly obvious one, but Lukaku is just he's just on the radar. Whatever at home to Stoke are playing a bit more open, free-flowing football, but they're conceding more chances as a result of that. And I think they're really going to struggle to contain Lukaku this week, and I just fancy Everton to probably get the victory in that fixture, but more importantly for him to maybe get a couple of goals. So he's one that is very much on the radar to bring in. Yeah, I mean, I was actually and I said it last week in the podcast, I wanted to sell Lukaku and bring in Remy, and I was out by 0.1, so I couldn't. You were happy enough, 2 goals. So I left him in. He wouldn't. If I had the budget, I would have sold him. I would have been kicking myself.
So I'm
Rugby still got some points though, so you wouldn't have been too
yeah,
badly
And
off.
we can kick you at any time.
You're so kind.
Just ask us.
But I mean, yeah, he could do with another goal this week, I think, just to help him cement his place in my team, because otherwise I'm going to have to give him a call and tell him, listen, you're out. You know. But Kevin Relish has won in that game as well. I've been talking about Relish for a couple of weeks now. He is starting to come good. I think he's certainly worth a look. And I think a clean sheet wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibilities here. Baines is obviously out, which is a concern for a good 25% of managers with a toe injury. We don't know exactly when he's due back at the moment. Jagielka or Coleman would be worth a look, I think, this week. If you have either of them, certainly play them.
All right.
They're great prices, those Everton defenders. That's something to be mindful of. They're all around 5.5.
Yeah.
It's, and you can't argue with that.
Or you can't argue with Sergio Aguero's form, and that's why I'm going to bring you to the Etihad again. Obviously, they've put 6 past Spurs, and now they face the visit of Swansea. Obviously, Sergio Aguero at home is going to be well up there for a captain's picks. We'll get that in a minute. He will be starting for me anyway, as will Yaya Toure. I'm still unsure about Zabaleta. He's still in my team.
I told you last week, Salim.
Yeah, it's the things aren't going well for him. But on the Aguero point, it was this fixture which he announced himself to the Premier League, of course, on that Monday night when Man City hosted Swansea a couple of years ago now. He obviously scored that night, had a great performance and stunning form at the moment. I know there's this kind of this kind of, I suppose, strange question as to why Man City can't get results away from home. I would be surprised if that doesn't change very, very soon. And I think it's nearly impossible to ignore Aguero at the moment. I certainly think that if you don't have Aguero or you don't have Luis Suarez, you're really just falling further and further behind week after week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one, Paul. You know, you look at City's last couple of home games, they scored 3 goals, 5 goals, 7 goals, 6 goals. Logical sequence there will be 4 goals. Just to cover off all the numbers between 3 and 7. But I mean, they're facing Swansea, and let's not forget Swansea have been notoriously bad after European action, and they play Valencia at home this Thursday. So there could be another European hangover for the Swans, and they've only won twice after a Europa League game, and those wins came against Palace and West Brom. So that kind of tells you, and that was West Brom when they were playing bad. So that'll kind of tell you how Swansea have been fielding it after the Europa League. So
do you want to hear about from Manuel Pellegrini?
Go on.
All right.
It's very difficult to understand why we cannot have better results playing away, because I repeat, playing away we also have a lot of chances. We also normally have the possession. They don't have too many chances, but for different reasons we cannot have all the points we want to have away. Here at home, we are really, it's impossible, I just said, to play better the way we did today. We will continue working in the same way, and I'm absolutely sure that we are going to win also away.
Thanks, Manuel. That's grand. So that was.
It sounds a bit to me like he himself isn't too sure why they're not winning away.
Well, he went on to say that if you look at all the stats from the games, they're creating the same amount of chances away from home as they are at home, and they're denying the opposition as many chances as they were away from home as they are at home. The opposition are scoring away and they're not scoring. So he doesn't understand why they're not putting them in. But he says they're pretty much set up to play the same way. So interesting. I just thought I'd fling that in.
No, it's nice to hear from him. I mean, I'd fancy City for a clean sheet.
He's a big fan of your work.
Well, he would say that. I'd fancy City.
Especially the early stuff.
I fancy City for a clean sheet this week. I think looking at a keeper for City I don't think it's worth doing, because I've said it before, I think Pantilimon will drop out and Hart will come back in, and you don't want to have to make a transfer. You don't necessarily need to.
It has been very sickening seeing all the people getting clean sheet points with him over the last 3 or 4 weeks, though, hasn't it? I've noticed there's a few Pantilimons in leagues I'm in.
Yeah, but
like, it's too late to jump now. But
well, you see, my general theory with people like that, Paul, is they're very much chasing points, and I think they're reacting rather than being reactive, and that's something that
proactive.
Proactive, and that's something that
they got more points than both of you.
But they're going to fall away.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They might have a free transfer. Just change your
So
keeper.
they got 6 points for a clean sheet. How did the rest of their team do? Bring me the rest of them.
Some people have brought them in now as the news stories are going around. I think it's going to be 10 or so.
Yeah.
I think if you did it then,
It's
excellent.
worth
But
it.
to do it now, it's a mistake. sadly.
No, I think you're right. I do, but I do think City will get the clean sheet. I'd have a look there, and probably Di Michaelis is probably the one I'd have a look at 5.9 for City.
All right. Any more best of the rest?
Yeah, I suppose we better switch to Liverpool. Seems like we've spoken about Aguero. We better touch on Suarez. Not that I want to do much of that. 12.2 he's gone up to now. Hard to deny him. Facing Hull away from home. Yeah, I don't think it needs too much speaking about, really.
Do you have him in your team, Phil?
Yeah.
Do you have him, Andrew?
No.
Right.
Aguero, Rooney and Lukaku for me.
Aguero, Suarez, Lukaku.
Yeah, I'm on the Aguero, Rooney and Remy as the chief going.
Yeah, it's still a good. There's a bit of variation
Apple
there.
don't fall far from the tree.
We spent too much time talking, I think. But again, I think there's another clean sheet in this one for Liverpool. I think Mignolet is worth it. Obviously, there's a lot of managers out there have him. Certainly, he's the keeper for me this week.
Let's talk about Liverpool's defence, if that's the case.
Yeah, well, I mean, they switched from their, a 3-4-2, whatever they were playing, back to a flat 4-4-2 last week.
They're playing 3 at the back,
Yeah, so they've switched back to a 4-4-2 now. Last week, anyway. I know they obviously conceded 3.
I think a key thing with that switch was obviously a man who you bigged up, I think it could be a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago now, John Flanagan, when he had a bit of a run in the Liverpool team under Kenny Dalglish.
Yeah.
So he hasn't really had a chance under Rodgers.
No.
But I know they conceded 3 goals last week, but he played very well, you know. He's someone who it wouldn't be, I suppose, crazy for him to maybe become a regular or at least get 5 or 6 games. And the $4.5 million in a Liverpool team, you know, he could do a lot worse.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, there's going to be a lot of people looking for an option.
I have Toure just as an example, and I know a lot of people do, and he now looks shippable, outable.
Yeah, he does. Early part of the season, you know, he was great to have. I got rid of him after game week 4 or 5.
Skirtle at 5.4 looks...
Yeah, that's where I'd be kind of... I think you're safe enough with Skirtle. I don't think we're going to see him dropped. He missed the first 2 game weeks of the season, but has played every game since, so I think he's probably the safest option there. But yeah, I'd fancy Liverpool for a clean sheet this week. Suarez is obviously worth a look. If you've still got Sturridge, you know, I wouldn't be too disheartened, but Paul's right.
I don't know, I thought it was very interesting. He was... Rodgers criticised him for not training, which is unusual. I kind of cited that as the reason is that he didn't play him. That he's just not doing it in training.
Yeah, we still come on and got a goal though.
Concern there.
And Gerrard, I think, is worth a look. Well, assist last week, although Coutinho's back now, you see.
Well, Coutinho was a much more exciting player. He really
but he doesn't do it. Like,
player.
I mean, we've spoken about this time and time again. I had him for the first couple of weeks, the first 4 weeks until he got injured. He had a great pre-season, then did absolutely nothing.
But Liverpool went on that run where they got a lot of 1-0s at the start, you know.
Yeah, now they're scoring goals.
Now they're starting to score. He's got, I suppose, Suarez playing ahead of him, who Suarez obviously wasn't there at the start. So, I mean, it's an interesting time. He will play fantastic football. I reckon, probably get a few bonus points. Now, the goal that he got isn't going to be a typical type of goal that you're going to see him score every week because he was simply in, I suppose, acres of space due to a mix-up between, I think it was Ross Barkley who was supposed to be marking him, got a bit confused, but I don't know, 8.5 is probably a little bit too expensive, but if you had a few quid there, that'd be fair. I'd be interested in gambling on.
Yeah, but I think personally, I think it is a gamble though. I think that word has to come into it. I'm always dubious of players coming back from injury. I don't like to get them in straight away, you know, because invariably it does take them a few weeks to get back to full match fitness. But yeah, it is one to look at. But I mean, when you look at it really though, overall, and looking at, you know, you've got Aguero, Suarez, Oscar, Hazard, Ozil. They're big price tags, like. And when you put them all together, if you've got any mixture of those, it's very hard then to find, now at this point, to find 8.5 for Coutinho.
For me, I'd have to sell a Lallana and a Ramsey, to be honest, or someone like that, and then I've got a few quid there. That's only because I brought Remy in and left a bit on the bench. But no, you're right. I mean, we are probably starting to get to a point. I mean, if we look at, say, I'm just looking here at the top 4 form players, form strikers, and it's Aguero, Suarez, Rooney, Van Persie, and they're all price tags 12, 12.1, 11.1, 13.9, you know, and that's big bucks. Midfield is the same sort of stuff, you know. You're seeing Hazard, Navas, Gerrard, and fairness, Nzonzi has crept in there, 4.8 million. So obviously Stoke are playing a bit better football, but it is getting more tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it leaves the question, where are we gonna fill? Where are we gonna find the cheap spots? I think it's something we're gonna see, especially now coming to Christmas, and we've spoke about it every year now at this point, that this is silly season for a reason. The games come thick and fast. People will take their eye off the ball.
Yeah.
And this is where you can make up ground if you are behind in the mini league. Not quite you, because you're in our mini league, so that's you bunched. You won't make we don't take our eye off the ball.
No, I know.
So,
it's
going to be
also
interesting.
To factor in, there's teams like Southampton are going to. They have a tough run of fixtures ahead. A lot of people have a lot of their players. There is, it's all going to change. I think a key thing, if you look at how it's going to change, I think possibly in a couple of weeks' time, Fulham might actually start playing well. Crystal Palace are someone to look at. Barry Bannon, obviously, maybe Shamak. I know you can have a few laughs about that. But they've got a few players. I wouldn't be surprised to see Palace actually maybe start to get a couple of results. And then obviously you've got Cardiff have done it. They may drop off. West Brom, they've had a mixed batch. I wouldn't be surprised to see their results get a little bit better. Then you're looking at your kind of Newcastle, so they could very easily tail off. So it is. I would very much be looking at the form table as opposed to the league table, because the league table is going to throw you over this Christmas period.
Yeah, that is. There's no doubt about it. I love it and I hate it in equal measure. It's going to be an interesting one. But I suppose probably we should see where the armband's going.
Yeah, we should. We'll talk about captain's picks, but briefly, I suppose, just to talk briefly about Crystal Palace. They've been in so much trouble trying to get a manager. Tony Pulis is taking over, so we know that, and he says he can keep Palace up, but I have to say I wouldn't like to be in his shoes.
No, but listen, I don't think he'd take the job on just for the sake of a job. He strikes me as the type of manager who very much, if he believes he can do it, when
the project, eh?
Yeah, well, we've seen his track record over, we know what he's about, but his style of play is something that would worry me with the squad he has at
I don't think
Palace.
Crystal Palace really have to worry about style of play. I think they just have to worry about staying up, don't they?
Well, you say that.
It was ironic. Their goal was such a smooth, slick passing move that got them the victory.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He might surprise you all. He did very well for Stoke, remember, with limited resources. He may work at 2.5 years he has there to try and turn things around. Obviously he's going to try and do that a little bit quicker than that. Right, let us
messes it up. It's a good payoff.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. All right, there's always an up with Paul. Let us talk about captain's picks now. Right, most important question of every week, the one I got wrong last week. Lads, go for it. I'm going to just get it in. Sergio Aguero, captain. Lukaku, vice captain.
Aguero is my captain at home. Manchester City against the Swansea side that don't perform well after playing in Europe.
Full stop.
Look, he can't. It's pointless to look anywhere else, unless some crazy news happens before then. And then look, the other one is going to be Suarez away to Hull. And that's where people are going to go if you don't have Aguero.
So if you don't have Aguero or Suarez, it's get them in first and foremost. But I suppose if you can't afford them outside of that for captain this week, I would probably have a look at
Lukaku at home to Stoke.
Remy or Lukaku.
Remy at home to West Brom.
Yeah.
Lukaku at home to Stoke.
Yeah, David
Rooney can do it against Tottenham. He's
that's a bit risky for me.
Hopefully he doesn't kick
Then
out
again,
at
no,
other
we haven't
people.
even, and it's quite funny when you look at it. Like Arsenal are away to Cardiff, and we haven't really. The Giroud 2 goals last week, he didn't get a mention this week. It just goes to show you the way it is.
Well, Barrett won't be playing this week, so that'll take one of those goals away from him.
That's true. Yeah.
Nightmare.
Wow, 3 Cruyff turns in a row. He must have been thinking. He must have been feeling brave.
But what I couldn't understand was the first one. Giroud was about 5 or 10 yards away from him. He wasn't as if it was a chance that if he turned, he was going to fool him. You could see it. It was like a double-decker bus trying to turn.
First one was good. It was the second and third one that did it.
Yeah, the
But there
first
was
one
no
was
need
good
for the
because
first one. There was no one near
the
it.
striker was about 10 yards away. That's why it looked all right.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's Aguero. Suarez is there if you don't have him, and if you don't have either of those, get them in. But outside of that, Remy and Lukaku.
All right, they were captain's picks. Right, it's questions time, and I know you guys have sort of wanted to sort of jazz up this little bit of the pod by changing the name. So questions times is now going to become what?
We don't know. Tell us.
Yeah, we don't know.
We're looking for suggestions, I suppose. And if it's really, really good, we might even have a prize for whoever names it.
The best one so far and they were tweeted in. Were they tweeted in, Paul?
Yeah.
You can tweet them to Fantasy Prem Tips at Fantasy Prem Tips, or you can email them to.
You email them to me. I'll take them. Phil at fantasypremierleaguetransfers.com.
Yeah, and I think the best one we had so far is, what's the matter
with you?
With you. It's the what's the matter with you section.
Yeah, that was Michael.
Kind of makes people not want to ask questions, though, doesn't it?
yeah.
Mafia style. You're going to intimidate.
Hey,
Yeah.
Tony, what's the matter, huh?
That was
Talk to Paulie.
Michael O'Connor sent us that one in. Cheers, Mick.
So do we have
Questions?
any? Do we have any people asking what's the matter with me?
I have one here, and he sent us in his team. And I don't know if Paul is looking at this. It's
What's his name? Has he got a name?
It was tweeted into us. It was sent into us by Callum Smith.
Okay.
So what I'll do is actually I'm going to put a screen grab of Callum Smith up on the side as well in the podcast section on the website. So you'll be able to see when you get to the end of the podcast. You can have a look at this. You'll see the team and you can see what we're talking about.
Callum, this is special treatment.
It is highly special treatment. I'll just run through his team very quickly. It's Boric, Harper, Klein, Mbiwa, Terry, Rat, Johnson, Hazard, Ramsey, Brady, Januzaj, Morrison, Remy, Suarez, Aguero. For me, there's not a whole lot going wrong up front. Remy, Suarez and Aguero. Paul, I think you'll agree that's fairly sound.
Yes. It's very close to my front line.
Yeah.
I've got Rooney instead.
So his midfield then is Hazard, Ramsey, Brady, Januzaj and Morrison. I think that needs a little bit of work. I think Morrison is probably, of the three cheap players, obviously hang on to Hazard and Ramsey, and the three cheap players in Brady, Januzaj and Morrison. I think keep Morrison, possibly sell Brady and Januzaj, because Januzaj's been in and out of the United team. Brady's been suffering.
You might need a couple extra million in there.
Yeah, well, that's the problem he has, you see. And looking at his defence, I mean, he could probably downgrade John Terry maybe, or Glenn Johnson. They're both carrying big price tags. And as we were kind of saying earlier, the bulk of the money is going up front, but that's where the points are. So you might want to start looking a little bit cheaper in defence. But if he's clever enough with it, there'll be room to do it there. It really does depend how much cash he can free up to bring in exactly who we could bring into the midfield. For me, I suppose the ones I'd be looking at,
Lallana and Sessegnon, of course, for you, Phil.
well, Morelos at 7.2.
Oh, it's expensive.
He could just about sneak in. I mean, Lallana's 7, so if you could sneak him in, I'd certainly have a look at him. But I mean, like Paul said, in Zonzi's that are sneaking up on the radar, there's 4.8. You could have a look. Yeah, it's tough. It's hard to give him really proper answers without knowing what changes
I
are
would
going
have thought Kabaya would have been high on your agenda.
Jeez, I forgot about him. I did mention him
Yeah,
earlier.
he did.
I did, but he kind of
6.4, 6
Yeah.
point something. Trying to play his way out of Newcastle.
He is, like we've said. Yeah,
Take advantage.
he'd be one to have a look at as well. But it is a little bit tricky trying to suggest, just because it's very hard to see budget wise. I mean, obviously we can name players, but they're not going to be realistic for them.
Phil, next question from you.
Yeah, I've one here from Douglas Evans. Just says Ozil's getting dropped. Should I bring in Hazard or Oscar? Oscar even.
Same question for me.
Also, should I get rid of Brady or Whittingham for Lallana? So 2 parts. He's dropping Ozil. Should he get a Hazard or Oscar? For me, I'd get Oscar.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I've come to, and I've done it, by the way, while we've been recording this pod. I've bought Oscar, and I've bought Skirtle as well.
Very good. And also, should he get rid of Brady or Whittingham for Lallana?
I like Whittingham. I
So
think
do I.
He's going to do a little better over coming weeks.
Yeah, I'd probably get rid of Brady because he's been suffering with his after his hernia op. He only played 45 minutes at the weekend, and the last time he played 90 minutes was game week 8. So for me, he has to go. Hang on to Whittingham. There's only 1 point in the difference between the two of them in terms of points returned so far this season. Whittingham actually picked up an assist against United and 2 bonus points to boot.
Yeah,
so.
he took the free kick, or the retaken free kick for the second goal. I mean, he'll do that, and he'll take penalties and stuff like that as well.
He is their set piece specialist there. Yeah, so yeah, for me that's what I'd be at, Douglas. I'd get rid of Brady and I keep Whittingham. And yeah, if you can bring in Lallana, bring him in.
Agreement all around. Any more?
I've one here from Andrew Lowry. He's thinking of playing his wild card because he's carrying far too many injuries, and he wants to know, is it too early to play his wild card?
Never too early.
Andrew, I know people who would give their left arm for a wild card right about now. It's a perfect time. Well, I'll say perfect, but it's a great time to play it. You're coming into the busy Christmas schedule. Have a look ahead, see where the pitfalls are over Christmas, and plan it accordingly to get you through to well, really you're actually in a very lucky position that you can kind of plan it to the end of January, because we'll have another wild card will come into effect kind of in around the end of January there. So I mean, you're kind of looking at maybe 6 or 7 game weeks, a little bit more, which is perfect.
All right. That was great to have questions back, and we shall call it a clever name as soon as you clever people tell us what to call it. Okay, we're nearly done. Right, before we get on with our lives until next week, there's only time to tell you about live time. No, there's not. I always say that, but there's actually, we always squeeze in more time than just live time, but there is live time at 10:30, between 10:30 and 11:30.
Yeah.
British Standard Time, Irish Standard Time.
Twitter machine at Fantasy Prem Tips, hashtag live time. You can get us there, or for you Facebook lovers, it's facebook.com/FPL transfers. And keep an eye on our members area. All of you lucky people out there, our points predictions will be up in the next 24 hours.
No, please get your questions in for Game Week 14. Have a great Game Week 13. And for me and the whole team, have a good one. Good luck. Slán.
See you now.
Bye bye.